The organizational meeting of the Isle of Wight County Board of Supervisors to order. First order of business is the invocation. I believe Ms. Roundtree has that tonight.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Keaton. This evening, we have U.S. Navy retired chaplain Glenn Kranz. He's also my dad. You guys saw him last January too, so thanks for coming all the way over.
Thank you, sir.
Come
Good to
from
be back.
Sandbridge.
Thank you.
You know, you've reached a turning point in your life when they used to say, oh, there goes Renee, she's Glenn Kranz's daughter. But now I say, well, there goes Renee, I'm her dad.
Something to be proud
And
of.
it's kind of reversed. I just want to leave you with a word this morning before I pray, and that word comes from the Bible, from 1 Samuel chapter 7. The word is Ebenezer. Folks that spent a lot of time in church probably heard of that word before. The story basically is, in a nutshell, after the good Lord had helped the Israelites beat the Philistines, one of the many times, it was a pretty significant victory. The prophet Samuel erected a monument. And he called the stone that he set up Ebenezer, which is a Hebrew term which means hitherto the Lord has helped us. And that's the word that I wanted to leave with you all here today, since we're on the threshold of a new year, and we look back and say, well, hitherto the Lord has helped us, and from here on out, we expect him to do the same. We trust it's a matter of faith. Let us pray. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, for you have brought us safely to the beginning of a new year. In this year of duty and service, we pray for mindfulness of the honor given to us by those who elected us to serve, and mindfulness of the wisdom you have given to us to look beyond the immediate to the common good. Finally, we thank you, Lord God, for all your gifts of body, mind, and spirit that motivate us to do our work with diligence and integrity through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Lord, born in our hearts again this season. Amen. Amen. Thank you for the privilege.
So if you could also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Keaton, with that, I would make a motion to adopt and approve the agenda as presented for the board this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Mays?
Mr. Rosie?
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
And Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Next item is the election of the chairperson for the upcoming year for 2025. Are there any nominations for chair?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Don Rosie as chair.
Any other nominations? All right, if not, hearing the motion to declare the nominations closed.
So moved.
Ms. Mays?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
With that,
Here's your-
Well, we can move our stuff in a little bit. I'll go ahead and let you move to the muddle. Keep on sliding now. So you want to after we do it? So we don't get confused.
you're awesome. Thank you. They were written on the backside too, huh? Thank you very much. With that, I would like to move to have a nomination for the election of the vice chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that Mr. Rudolph Jefferson be nominated as vice chair.
Do we have any other nominations?
I'd like to move the nominations closed.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes. So moved. So do we now do our round table?
Can we take a 5-minute break and get moved around?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we appoint Ms. Catherine Mays as the clerk to the Board of Supervisors.
Any other nominations?
Move the nominations to be closed.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
And Mr. Rosie?
Yes. Next, we have the appointment of Deputy Clerk of the Board of Supervisors. Do we have any nominations?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we would, and I heard the last name just went right out of my head,
Denny.
Ms. Courtney Denis as the Deputy Clerk to the Board of Supervisors.
Do we have any other nominations at this time?
No. Move the nominations to be closed.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes. So moved. And we have the adoption of the Board of Supervisors meeting schedule. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, just before you take a motion for that, if I
Yes,
may,
sir.
because different schedules come up throughout the year, I think typically we're pretty fluid on that to inform one another when we get to those. Unless there's an immediate drastic change, I think we can take it up as presented and then modify it as needed.
And with that, I think we've had this conversation most years. We'll try not to do those long 8-hour work session, then board meeting kind of things, because I think it's important that we're able to devote the amount of time and attention needed to some of those things. And I know we try to get things squeezed in. We have to, but I would hope that we would try not to, when possible, to do both the same night.
Yes. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the Board of Supervisors meeting schedule as presented this evening.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes, so moved. I'd like to see a nomination for the bylaws and rules of procedure for Isle of Wight County Board of Supervisors for calendar year 2025, and are there any amendments to that?
I provided the board with a red line version of the bylaws as amended by comments made by Mr. McCarty that I just made some word changes to. I found the ones that were included in the packet to be well taken, as far as there were some items that our bylaws said one thing, but by practice forever we had been doing something else. Just to be clear, to do that, there was one item that if we're going to address it, we need to talk about it in closed session. But I have some concerns about it from an enforcement standpoint.
Right, okay.
The other ones, to just kind of also bring it up, we've had citizens that have brought to, I know to my attention, other board members as well, of stating their address in these type of meetings. So I'd also ask the county attorney to amend our bylaws to where it states that they can say that they are either, I believe, a citizen of the county or their voting district.
Let me get to that section real quick. It's 41D.
Because that'll need to be changed when the chair.
41D. And I have changed it to say each speaker shall clearly state their name and election district of residence or city, county of residence if they reside out of the county.
Yes.
So that is in the red line version now. So they don't have to state their actual street address, just their election district. There's no requirement they do that, and I understand the concerns with people's behavior these days, putting your address out on the street.
Yeah, I think this board would agree that the importance is we're elected to represent the citizens in Alawite County. We're not discounting the people that are outside our area or maybe from the region that have some concerns they want to bring to our attention. But I think even in the way it presents, I think it actually says we welcome citizens' comments, et cetera. We don't say Alawite citizens only, but I think it's important that we're able to distinguish those who actually reside within our county and those that maybe have concerns that are outside of our county.
We have removed the address part.
That's very good.
I think that's a very legitimate concern. Do we have a motion to move forward as amended?
Well, didn't you say we had to talk about something?
But,
So we wanna-
I mean, I
It's
think
not
we
in
can,
there.
we can
later.
do that at the end of we have a closed session scheduled at the end of the meeting. We can just pass this down to the end of the meeting to decide what we're gonna do.
What's your pleasure? Do you want to move this one to later on after our closed session, or you want to?
I think we're okay to go ahead and rule on it now, Mr. Chairman. I would move to adopt the bylaws and the rules of procedure as presented this evening. Should the board desire to change something later, you can always revisit it according to our bylaws with a majority, 3/4 majority vote.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree,
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Rosie.
Yes. Then we have the Board of Supervisors Committee appointments, and do we want to do this as a slate, or how do we want to?
Mr. Chairman, if Mr. Jones help me on this, would it be, since I don't believe there's any changes or a desire to change on any of our board commitments that we've done in the previous year, would it be permissible to entertain and take up a motion to reappoint all board members to
Their current committee,
their current committees? So
the
that-
assignments, yeah.
I would move that we reappoint, Mr. Chairman, all current board members to their current assignments.
Do we have any further discussion on that?
Do any of us rotate off of any of them?
Not unless you want to come off of them.
No, I just mean like, according to their rules. So
No.
Is Isle of Wight rotating off of any of the
No,
regional?
this is your committee
This is internal,
appointment,
okay.
internal committees. Well, the next one,
Okay,
These are the,
like personnel and.
correct.
yes.
CIP and that.
So we have a motion on for the Board of Supervisors Committee appointments before us. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Rosie.
Yes. Then we have the Board of Supervisors appointments to regional boards and committees. Any further discussion?
And I don't know off the top of my head what the regional committees assignments are, if you can only serve 2 terms or whatever. My suggestion would be if everyone wants to stay on the committees that they're on, to do so, and that the regional organization would notify, just like we get from, say, the Workforce Council, that somebody's they've served their terms, or the Social Services has served their terms, and bring that back up at a future meeting if we need to make a change to a regional committee.
Does anybody know of a regional committee that you're going to have to switch off on?
None of them require a switch off. The only difference, if you become an officer like with the TPO,
Right.
you're only allowed to be chair for 2 years consecutively, then you come off it, but you're still on it. So there would be no tenure limits that would affect any of the board members as it stands.
Same thing with Rumpf. I'm vice chair, and I'll be that, excuse me, for next year, and then be in position to be chairman. So any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to reappoint all of the regional positions as previously held by the Board of Supervisors.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson,
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree.
Yes.
Mr. McCarty.
Yes.
Mr. Avery,
Yes.
Mr. Rosie.
So moved. Okay. Next up, we have the County Administrator's Report.
Sir, so we have a couple items tonight we want to bring you, give you an update on. Amy is up first. She's going to talk about the status of our comprehensive plan update. I know there was a couple of questions that I've gotten from board members that she's going to be covering. One is looking at the growth rate scenarios under the current comprehensive plan, and then also an update on the growth rate study that is underway as well. So This will give you, kind of remind everybody, refresh everybody's memory about the process and where we were from 2020, and then how we're moving forward for the 2025 update.
Good evening, board members. My name is Amy Ring. I'm the county's Community Development Director. I'm here tonight to give you an update on the use of the growth scenario analysis in the county's comprehensive plan 5-year review process that we started last summer. As you recall, the Code of Virginia requires that every locality review its comprehensive plan at least once every 5 years to ensure that revisions don't need to be made based on changing local conditions or changes to the community's goals and objectives. The county's current comprehensive plan was developed over several years with an extensive public input process as well as a growth scenario study and analysis. The plan took part in 4 phases, with the first phase kicking off in June of 2017. And the first phase asked the community what was important to them, what were its future priorities. We had over 10 public meetings. We had a survey that had over 740 responses, and we took that public input and we incorporated it in the next phase and developed over 8 different potential growth scenarios. And in the next phase, we asked the community where and how should we grow, and we had another 10 community meetings and another survey. So this is the input that we received. This is a graphic just kind of giving you a snapshot of the public input we received during the first phase of the community comprehensive plan process. And a lot of these themes look really familiar, and they've been really consistent over the last 30 years or so of the county's planning history. Managed growth, preserving the county's rural character, maintaining the sense of community, protecting the environment, preserving agriculture. Some issues that were brought up were managing traffic and managing the cost of growth and development. And across the board, schools and education was one of the top priorities for the community. So this is a list of the 8 different growth scenarios that we developed based on the community's first phase of public feedback. And we asked everybody during the next round of public hearings or public meetings and in the survey, what did they feel were the advantages and disadvantages for each of these potential growth scenarios? So we had 409 survey responses. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Could you go back to the slide right before it just showed some of the priority, one right before that one? Growth and use, school education. I was just looking for public safety up there.
That was definitely one of the strong points that the community felt
Okay,
of the public safety, yeah.
thank you. I'm sorry about that.
Sure, it's okay. They always continue to do well in the public service surveys that we, have with the community. So these are the different 8 scenarios that we had. We had 409 survey responses, 128 community meeting participants. We had 274 people sign up for an email distribution list that gave meeting notifications and when surveys were available to take online. We had another round of 10 public meetings. We advertised them in the local paper, on Twitter and Facebook, and on the website. And at the same time, we had another our first stakeholder task force was formed, and we used a similar model for this current 5-year process. So we got all that feedback based on the 8 different growth scenarios that we had, and we organized them into advantages and disadvantages and picked the top 3 for each. And we incorporated those into 2 preferred growth scenarios, so we're winnowing it down, and we are now getting more specific about where this growth should occur. One of the scenarios was a little more aggressive than the second one. And we also conducted a fiscal and market feasibility study for each of these 2 scenarios, as well as the current 2008 comprehensive plan. And we did this in order to assure the public that each of these scenarios were not going to be detrimental to the county's financial position. And so we requested public feedback again in this third phase for both scenarios before we developed the final one. So this is just a snapshot of some of the results that we received when people were giving us advantages and disadvantages for each of the 8 growth scenarios that we had. And in this one, the scenario was the agricultural preservation scenario, and the focus was to preserve important farm soils, large tracts of land, and rural character, and to prioritize protecting the county's rural character. So some of the disadvantages that people pointed out was that it didn't address inadequate county services, it didn't limit growth necessarily, and there was less economic development and job creation. Some of the advantages that people pointed out was that it protected the environment, it protected rural character, and it preserved agriculture and agricultural jobs. And so we use these advantages and disadvantages to kind of make sure that in these 2 preferred scenarios that we were including the advantages and steering away from the disadvantages that people were pointing out. This was the central and southern growth scenario example. The point of this scenario was to encourage growth in the Windsor and Camptown DSDs by shifting development demand to these areas away from the Newport Development Service District. And this was in response to people saying in the surveys that they felt there was too much growth happening in the Newport DSD. So some of the disadvantages people pointed out was that it didn't address inadequate county services, it reduced the Newport DSD size, and there was too much growth in the central and southern areas of the county. So the advantages for this scenario was that it created jobs, it reduced growth in the Newport DSD, and it encouraged central and southern growth. So just there you're seeing the top 3 competing for the priority for this scenario. And then this was the economic development scenario that focused on job creation and the growth of non-residential uses that contributed to the tax base. This opened up the DSDs a little bit more. It increased the density in these areas by increasing area available for industrial and commercial growth. Some of the disadvantages that people pointed out was that there were negative environmental impacts and loss of agricultural land. It proposed too much of this type of economic development and too much development in the Newport DSD. Some of the advantages people felt that this scenario had is that it controlled residential growth, it promoted growth in the Windsor DSD, and it promoted economic development and job creation. So those are just some of the examples of the input that we were trying to incorporate in the 2 final preferred scenarios. So we also conducted, as I mentioned earlier, the market and fiscal feasibility impact studies for both of these preferred scenarios, as well as the current 2008 comprehensive plan. And both of these studies stated that all 3 scenarios were fiscally positive for the county. So there wasn't going to be any negative consequences from a budget standpoint for the county under each of these scenarios. The only negative thing that the scenario or the studies had to say was really that maybe we were a bit too ambitious with the amount of economic development we could anticipate in the next 20 years. So that we had more than enough area, in other words, enough land use area for future commercial and industrial growth. So the fiscal and market feasibility studies projected an average annual population and employment growth rate of 0.83%, or just a little under 1% on average per year between 2020 and 2040. Both preferred scenarios were deemed to be fiscally positive based on the projected revenues anticipated from this growth and cost to serve new development. Based on projected growth rate, approximately 2,731 additional residential units were needed to accommodate growth using an average of 2.4 people per household. And that's based on the county's 2020 census population of 38,606 people. Just to kind of give you a status report of where we are now, in April 2020, we had 16,441 existing residential units, and as of July 2023, we have approximately 17,566 units, which is approximately 1,100 new residential units. Now keep in mind that this number does not reflect the number of demolitions that we've also had, And we do have a few of those each year, so you kind of have to take that into consideration when you're talking net new residential units. And I meant to pull the demolition numbers today, and I didn't do it, but I can get that information to you.
Those residential units include apartments as well as single.
Yes.
So just to synthesize this for a second, even if you add 259, which I know you haven't got to that bullet point yet, but 259 new building permits per year, let's just say you add 259 to July of 23, then we're only at 1,400, a little less than that, new units. And even with a growth rate at 0.83%, which I think hopefully you're going to update us on some of the stuff, because to me this sounds like the stuff that was from the first time we looked at it, but it seems like we're 1,300 units below what the need is to keep up with the growth.
Right, the anticipated growth over 20 years.
Over 20 years.
Yes, so you're looking at,
So we're 1,300 units below the
Yes.
growth for 20 years, and we're 5 years into it.
right,
Okay.
right. So as I mentioned earlier, we are in the middle of the 5-year plan review process. Our 5-year deadline would be 2025, and technically we have met the 5-year review. We are currently reviewing the plan. The code doesn't say you have to actually adopt any revisions of the plan in 5 years. It just says you have to review it. So that is what we are currently doing, and we are doing an extensive process with that currently. The Planning Commission held a workshop on April 9th, 2024 to discuss the process, and we had our first stakeholder working group meeting in July of this past summer. We then hired Tischler Weiss to perform a growth rate scenario study in July of 2024 as well. So this ongoing study will evaluate impacts of 3 alternative growth rate scenarios for implementation of the county's plan by the target year of 2040. The analysis will consider 3 scenarios based on different growth rates, including one that reflects historical trends, one that reflects recent trends, and one that assumes a much more rapid growth. The study will develop specific recommendations on the optimum growth rate for the successful implementation of the plan, as well as any future needs for public facilities for each of these growth scenarios. So the last time I talked to the consultant before the holidays, she's hoping to have some preliminary findings available in the next couple of weeks. We are looking at a scenario that is based on the county's historical growth rate of about 1%. The projected growth rate the historical growth rate for the county in the time before last was 1.87%. So that was before the recession. So that's considered a high growth rate for the county of right around 2%. So we'll have a scenario that's based on that. We'll also have a scenario that's based on the projected 1% growth rate for this next 20 years, 2020 to 2040. And then we have a super high scenario that we'll be looking at for 3%, and what the impacts of those different growth rates will have on the county's public facilities and operational budgets as well.
Is it possible to do, I mean, I know you said 1.87, so that's close to 2, but is it possible to do 2.5% also?
I can certainly ask. We did specify in the scope of work 3 different scenarios.
Yeah.
I would be very interested, and it seems like they would have the data for this. Move a little bit away from the major bullet points of 0.83% and the projected 1.8%, and I would love to see the data by district in terms of residential, commercial growth. I think that would help us break it out and see where our growth is actually taking place or not. I think there's been some changes since this was first enacted. There's a couple of areas that were commercial in the Carsville area where there was the Cutchins land, if you remember that land, and it was taken out and returned to agriculture. And then there was a large property next to that.
Was that in the Camptown DSD? Was that a part of
Yes.
it? It was, okay.
And then there was a large property, a farm next to that that had been switched over to commercial, but then that came back out as well. But I think it'd be helpful to understand by district what the growth looks like as well.
I think you can measure it by district, right? But you're talking about 3 scenarios that I don't think that makes much sense to do it by district, the scenarios.
Well,
That's
so
too much.
That'll be,
Is outside
I
the
like the
scope, too.
idea but I think it becomes a little hard, especially if you look at Carrollton, because there's 3 districts that go through, well, depending on what end of Carrollton, could be 4 and some,
Well-
but there's at least 3 districts in Carrollton. So I don't know that you could actually carve it into our district model. I think,
Yeah, that would be.
I think
the
you have
one.
to stick to your DSD versus non-DSD. I think that's what we're doing.
I think Gerald Gwaltney has said before, he can separate by magisterial district, but not by voting district.
I think that's a
The
good.
magisterial district is a defined area where the voting districts are so chopped up, it's really difficult to,
I still think on magisterial, I think that's gonna,
well, I'm saying that would be the only level you could do it, because
Got it.
I'm saying if you wanted to, there are 3 distinct magisterial districts, but the voting districts would be very difficult.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful. I think, when we're looking at economic growth, and we're specifically looking at the airport area and around Campton area where we haven't seen much growth, but we've talked about it, I've talked about it with some of our regional meetings, and the potential is there. And it's a good footprint to fit into, and we could marry some of our services, I think, with the airport that'll utilize it in different ways, and it would be very acceptable to see some growth right around that area. But right now, in a sense, we're really not looking at that very hard, although Renee and I have had these discussions, and I'm meeting with some of the economic development people over there in Franklin, and trying to determine what they would like to see as well. So we talk about attracting and taking some of the load off, if you will, to the northern area, but doing it in an appropriate place in the southern area. Where would it be appropriate, and how could we best utilize those resources?
But the growth has to take place, I think, in the areas where the county has invested all their money.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
I mean, you can look at Carrollton versus Rushmere. We don't have the resources in Rushmere area to support the growth, like we see it down in Carrollton and some of the other places. So, I mean, that's gonna be a determining factor where the growth is actually gonna take place at. Because, I mean, we get homes, you look at Lawrence Point, we got quite a few homes coming up in Lawrence Point. But that's one isolated neighborhood to itself. When we look at all down Route 10, you don't see that many building permits or nothing being issued for building new homes and different things.
Right, yeah.
So when we look at, recommendations of growth rate, and I hope I'm not getting off the subject, but a lot of things come to mind with that. I've not heard any other board members that are all about just growing this county as much as we possibly can. Everybody I've ever talked to on this board seems to be very committed to balance.
Right.
The recommendations, some things that, not to harp on anything, but once upon a time, we were told rooftops brought in commercial, which seemingly is correct. But we also recognize some real estate revenues from those new buildings. We've noticed that currently, that with some of the rooftops comes now some, what I guess you would consider some we'll say liabilities, but there's some costs associated now with a residential growth. We actually, the revenue that we got from residential growth last year, we actually went in a deficit because of some of the funding programs that are out there. So we're not receiving extra revenue necessarily from residential growth, which we then pivot, as this board has at time, to commercial growth. And when I look at that, because we're talking growth in general, and I was trying to look for it, but I was writing to it, so I apologize to anybody. Y'all stop me, please, if you already hit on this, is, to our citizens, we always talk about being very diverse in our tax base, commercial and residential, et cetera. But when this board seems to entertain some options on making housing in this, or living in this county affordable, and not chunk it full of a whole lot of more homes, we turn to commercial, and then you have a few people that have some concerns. Most of them are usually close to those properties. I'm just using the Windsor stuff as an example, but it's everywhere. It's with solar farms, et cetera. But I guess as a county, where is the commercial growth going to go? Where is it acceptable? Because I even see some people have strong feelings about some of the growth that's even within our DSD for commercial.
Right.
So when we're asking questions and getting feedback from our constituents, this silent majority just stays at home and they read about this, unfortunately. But we need to hear from them to say where you want to put this, because we don't want, they love to preserve right out in the county, they talk about agricultural land, but we can't have it both ways. And if we slow growth way down, which is what we've all loved to do, who's going to be able to afford it? And we talk about affordable housing, there's not going to be any affordable housing because taxes got to come from somewhere. So a lot of that comes in mind. And I mentioned earlier, there's another part of this, and that's the public safety aspect, which I'm guessing we'll touch on. But we have a hospital that when this was first brought up, the hospital was just almost like a dream. With that hospital comes some real obligations here. Public safety being the biggest one, law enforcement. I'm sure the sheriff could tell all of us how much, whether there's issues at the hospital where he has to have a deputy stay with him, et cetera. But that's a cost to us for that. So, I mean, you know this better because you've been doing it for years, but how do you balance it? And I guess at the end of the day, this board's going to do the best we can, but it seems like our citizens at times are stop this, stop that, stop this. Well, if you stop it all, then the next thing you're going to be looking for is why are my taxes or why are fees and stuff going up? So I guess back to my point is commercial growth and diversity of commercial growth. Obviously, somebody says, well, that's where you put it, is it goes into DSDs. But we get pushed back even when you try to do it in DSDs in areas that seemingly years ago were planned for that development. Do we address that in here, Amy?
So.
I probably jumped ahead.
It's
or maybe I
okay.
missed something.
So not specifically in the growth analysis. It's going to be more geared towards what kind of impact that those different growth rates are going to have on the county's ability to provide services. So is the revenue generated by the growth created under that particular growth rate, does it generate enough revenues to cover the cost of the services like public safety, to be able to cover those services for that population growth?
I mean, unfortunately, about a year or so ago, we saw a large fire in the Alaway Industrial Park. And yet we go to groundbreaking on large facilities in the Windsor and Shirley T. Holland Industrial Park. We rely heavily on our volunteers. And when those men and women either decide they've had enough or the volunteer force doesn't seem to be growing alongside of the other growth. I mean, that at the end of the day, somebody's going to have to pay for that service. And I've never seen that background of what it would cost. Any other one of these surveys probably most counties that have all paid services, you'd have to reflect the cost of that. Do we reflect the cost of that if we had to fund it? In other words, do we understand that background liability of public safety that we may not have to address today because our dedicated volunteers, but at some point in time, some board may have to address?
Yeah, we've never done a comparison study like that where it's like what's going to cost now under our current system, what it could cost if we lost that system and had to go to all paid.
I mean, I think that's important, and the reason I think that's important is there's so many people that move to our county because they want a rural lifestyle, and they never think about that until they're not going to need it. Most of us think we're never going to need a fire truck, or I'll go to the doctor if I get sick. Unfortunately, it's not always the case, but they never think about how that service is being rendered, and there's really no way for you to know. We know that with just people living in a DSD didn't know they were in a DSD, so I'm pretty certain there's a large part of our population doesn't understand that. I'm going to call it a financial liability should our volunteers stop. So at some point in time, we may I would suggest that we need to at least have that running in the background as a liability.
I think you're right. I don't know that would be, Ms. Ring that would do that, right?
No.
It would be.
But it goes along with the
Supervisor or
growth
CFO.
scenario.
Right, yeah.
So what you're saying, if we look at the number of firefighters and EMS workers, volunteers today, look at, if we actually had to pay those people for a year's service, what it would actually cost.
Right, if you,
And incorporate the new apparatus and all of that.
and if it ran alongside of a 2% growth rate, that's a liability. That if we don't have to do it today because we have volunteers, that's wonderful. But at some point in time, somebody needs to understand that 2% growth rate that's paying for all this stuff hasn't paid another liability that's sitting there that's now being shouldered by our citizens.
Mhm.
So, I didn't mean to go on and on, but that was the long version. Apologize. Thank you, Ms. Ray.
Well, I think that's important to your point, Mr. Agri. I think our citizen would probably be shocked to realize that it would be a 30-cent tax increase to handle something like that if it was all paid, based on different numbers that I've ran over the years. I think the other thing that comes into play in this is something that I know shocked me my first year on the board in 2016, when the water utility was in the hole over $5 million a year. And where are we at on that now, Mr. Keaton? 2.5, 2.6? some 7?
We reduced it down to about 3.5,
Three and a
and we had to go back up some this year because we've had some
Right.
Large capital expenses, so it's back up around 4 now.
That's
So
back
just
up.
to clarify, because when you say that obligation, that's because our water system doesn't support it. It's not a self-sustaining system.
That's right.
So all of us, all the citizens, whether they use the water or not, are paying for
Subsidized
the
off the
water.
general fund, that's right.
Right.
And that's
So
at what kind of
growth-
tax rate?
So 4,000,000, 8 cent, somewhere around there, depends on,
Yeah, it's about 700 per penny, 700,000 per penny, so
so,
it's
yeah.
about close to
7 cent.
6, 5.5,
6.5.
5.5, something like that.
Well, and so to that point, we talk about the cost of development on one end, but development also brings down that liability to the general fund because of water users. It's a delicate, difficult balance.
We actually underutilized
Right.
what we said we would for water
Right.
this year.
Way under. So,
You're still paying for that, even
All
if
of
you
us are
don't
paying,
use
even
it.
you don't drink a drop of it.
All right,
Other thoughts, questions?
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Rainey.
you.
thank you.
Oh, wait, so that's it? I'm sorry.
Oh.
I thought you meant
Oh.
yeah,
Ms.
I'm
Roundtree
not,
might
I'm
have
not quite done
something for
yet. I thought,
6 cent.
any other thoughts or questions about that slide? Sorry, that was the end
Yes.
of your presentation? Okay, so I thought this was an update of the comprehensive plan. So you said we're theoretically in compliance, right, with the review for 2025. What I was hoping you were going to talk about is, yes, thank you for saying in the next few weeks the consultant will have preliminary numbers. I know she promised at the meeting that I went to that the full report would be done by March, so hopefully we could use some of these scenarios to budget, right? Because March is probably about the tail end of when we can use something for that. But I was hoping you were going to speak to all the surveys that we just got back.
Oh.
I mean, you just put like a link out online. I know you were generous enough to come and speak to the chamber students, and I know they gave you some feedback, and I know there have been people that have been saying on social media and others that they've given you pages of feedback for this round of review. So I guess I had hoped that we would speak to some of that, not just the stuff
I
from.
could give you a quick
Okay.
bullets on it. So the stakeholder working group started meeting in July, and they all broke down into different subcommittees based on what chapter of the comp plan that they wanted to review. And then they had a couple subsequent meetings where they met as a group and reviewed each chapter line by line and submitted what their recommended changes were for that chapter. So staff collected all of those responses, and we are now working at putting together a master draft of a red line version of the comprehensive plan that we're hoping to send out to the larger group by the end of the month, beginning of February. We also had a survey that closed right after Thanksgiving, and we did get a lot of responses. The exact number, I think it was over 700, and we are doing the analysis of those responses at the same time. So I'm hoping to have some sort of results for you here in the next couple of weeks once we put all of this together and put a bow on it for everybody, so.
So you can come back
Yes.
and talk about all that?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
No
So-
problem.
So to that point, so I appreciate the difference in the numbers. So based on what was done previously that you kind of reminded us of tonight, we had less than 0.5% of our citizenry weigh in on the comprehensive plan the first go. So I'm encouraged that with 700, that's about 1.5% of our, current population. What are some ways that we can get that even higher? Because when you think of less than 0.5% first go around and awareness, people getting engaged, so now we're up to 1.5%.
Right.
How do we?
So I think that the county's social media presence has helped. We've had a lot of assistance from other county departments like economic development and tourism who posted it and boosted it on their sites as well as the county's main website where it was posted. We had it, we had QR codes posted and located in area businesses where people could scan the QR code with their phone and fill out a 5-minute survey. with their phone. So the fact that it was 5 minutes long, it was short, it was easy to get to. We did not do paper surveys this time. We did not do postcards this time. I think if we were to do the postcard reminders, and next time we do a survey, that could potentially boost some numbers, although we didn't see the success rate with that we were hoping to get when we did it for the last phase of the last comprehensive plan update. So again, just, continuously engaging citizens where they are, and using popular means of communication, I think definitely helps, so.
And that was in the Times, it was on social media.
Yep.
Several of us posted all over the place for people to engage. So I guess my reason for asking that question is we're doing everything that we know to do, but if someone doesn't want to engage the process, there's nothing we can do to force people to engage it. And that's one of our struggles, that people won't engage something, but yet it's easy to, for any of us as being human beings, it's easy to hindsight fuss about something that you chose not to engage in. And so that's always a challenge when you deal with apathy and things like that in life, because everybody's got a lot of things going on, that we're putting it out in every mainstream way we know how. And we've had a net increase, and we didn't do it the old-fashioned mailbox way.
Right.
So, yeah, interesting.
When's the next growth, comprehensive plan review / growth task force?
So we are looking at scheduling one for the second Tuesday in February.
Bless you.
Any other questions from our board members or thoughts? Thank you very much.
Sure.
Time to talk trash.
Yes. So the next update we have is our Michael Etheridge with our Refuse and Recycling Center. We just want to give you an update about some exciting things that have been going on there, things you might not notice when you go to a site, but I think you'll be very interested in seeing the results of that. And then if you went to the parade, you'll definitely, you'll probably remember seeing one of our trash trucks there. So.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Thank y'all so very much for allowing me to come before you tonight. Our presentation tonight is past, present, and future. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as it relates to our program. One of the projects that we've been working on for the last 2 years was providing internet service to all of our convenience sites. And I know the first question may be, why do we want that? Well, I'm going to tell you about some things that's going to allow us to do. We were very fortunate to have a very talented IT staff headed by Jason Gray, and he's done a remarkable job on helping us to implement this program. We've been working on it since 2022. When this project first started, when we first started this project, the cost to implement internet at all of the sites was somewhere around $35,000, and that only included 6 sites. That didn't include all 8 sites. That's all that we could do at that time. Jason has worked very diligently with the company. Fast forward to today, we were able to get all 8 sites for less than $800. So that was made a huge impact as far as cost. Now, what does that mean for us? Once we got that in place, my team met with his team, and we got together to talk about how we want to implement the camera program, which was very important to our program. We already had some cameras up, but they weren't as effective because we actually had to go to the site, download the information, bring it back to the office and look at it. Now we're able to look at everything. Oh, I'm sorry, I gotta go back. Did you already set it up on? Okay, there it is, sorry. So now we can see everything in real time. The supervisors have screens set up, a large screen set up in their office, and they can look at several sites at one time in real time. So this is one of the screens which kind of cuts up all of the cameras, and you can actually see a lot of things happening at one time. Now, if you want to narrow it down to one thing, you can just click on it and it'll narrow it down to one item if there's something specific you want to look at. I picked this particular slide because one of the advantages that we've found since we put it in place is where we were able to deal with a small issue that we were having, but it has a huge impact on the operation. And that's to make sure that sites are open on time. Every now and then, we're all human. We have a scheduling issue where somebody may forget. We may have a fill-in. They may forget the day that the time they need to come in. And at some of the sites, it may be 10:30 before we realize that the site's not open because nobody's visited the site, nobody's called us, or one of the drivers may not have been to the site and to let us know that it was not open. Now, every morning at 7, they can pull up all the cameras, and every camera is on a gate, and we can see if they're open. So that has tremendously helped us. If it's not open, then our reaction time to make sure that it's open increases. So we're able to get the site open closer to their opening times by having that information. We have all of the sites have cameras except one site. We have them all done, completed except one. We were trying our best to get them all done before the end of the year, but with holiday schedules, we were able to get everything completed except one. And I want to give a big thanks to Jason and his team for working with me and for working with our team. And I have 2 members of our team that I brought with me, George Ines and Carlos Batten. They were very instrumental in working with their team to ensure that we got all the infrastructure in place. And I also have to give kudos to our maintenance department because some of the larger tasks that required a little more heavier experience, they were able to help us with that. So we're very fortunate to have the teams that we have to be able to collaborate and do these things. And all of that saved a tremendous amount of money. We didn't have to hire out anything to get this project completed. And so that saved a lot of money. This is our Jones Creek site. And one thing that me and my team, we do all the time is brainstorm, try to figure out how we can make it better. How can we make traffic patterns better? How can we deal with certain safety issues? The cameras allow us to do 2 things. One, we can identify more issues if we have them by looking on the camera. And the second thing is when we decide to put in a new plan or a new idea, we're able to watch it in real time to see if it's effective. And this is one that's been very effective. If you notice, I don't know how many people visit Jones Creek, but we put in a new lane and moved the recycling compactor. That has drastically reduced the bottleneck that we were having up at the entrance going into that site. And I'll show you, this is just I did some really short.
It was a great idea.
Yeah, it has drastically changed. It has really alleviated one of the problems that we had. And we were able to watch it in real time to see how effective it is rather than sitting on site. So as we're doing other work, they can look at this and see the effectiveness of the program. Let me back up. So also, one of the things that we use the camera for is in some sites, there were no distinct traffic pattern. Everybody just kind of drive in and drive to where they need to go, and there was constant vehicles not necessarily bumping into each other, but having to wait because there's no distinct traffic pattern. So staff got together and they came up with a traffic pattern, and it's just arrows on the ground and cones to kind of give an idea of how we like traffic to flow. Well, with the cameras, we're able to see how effective that is, and what we found is every 10 cars, there's usually one that may not follow the traffic pattern. So it's just the training is working, getting everybody to follow suit. So I think that's good odds with every 10 cars. You only have one maybe that may not follow the traffic pattern. And that's just having arrows on the ground. So it's not like we have any barriers or anything other than cones. So we were pretty excited about that. So you can kind of see how this particular truck is following the new traffic pattern, and it allows people to come around and wait to be able to back up to the compactor. Further in the program, I'm going to show you some other things we'd like to do to help as far as future things that will help make this process even better. So one of the things that we do within our division is we rely on data. Every decision we make relies on data. You cannot make good decisions if you don't have good data. So we collect a lot of data in a lot of different ways. So we do traffic counts at all the sites so we know how many people are utilizing the sites. The new program we put in for the drivers where they're able to capture all of their data on the phone, that goes into a spreadsheet, and we're able to use that data as far as knowing the tonnages and how much tonnages we're dealing with and which tonnages are going where. And all this information helps us to make decisions as to how we want to make improvements, which sites need improvements first based on the number of people. So we already knew that Jones Creek is the largest quantity of people utilize Jones Creek. He used 107,000 people visited that site in 2023, 2024. The second, of course, we've already made some improvements at Jones Creek. That was the very first site we made some improvements, and now the traffic flow and everything is a lot better in that site. The second site was Wren's Mill. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to go to Wren's Mill. It functions very well. Traffic flows in and out of that site. We alleviated many problems with the upgrades in that site. So now how do we move forward? Well, we look at the numbers based on what we have. We kind of have a tie. We have Carroll Bridge and Staves Mill are the next two sites that we are putting part of our concentration on, and then Carsville is running behind that because of where it's located, and the number of people that's using that site is comparable to some of the smaller sites. Even though it's a large in area, it's small in numbers as far as use. So following our data that we have, we felt like Carroll Bridge and Staves Mill is where we want to put our concentration on development. And following in one of the things that Ms. Ring was talking about is growth, we're also planning for the future. So as part of our future plans for the site includes growth in some of those sites. In all of those sites, I'm sorry. So Staves Mills, this is an interesting site. I've always been intrigued as to how the design, the triangle was put in, but that's what we have to work with. So we're trying to figure out how the most economical way to make this site work. So right now, when traffic comes in, there is no distinct traffic pattern. There's really no way to, when somebody comes in, they know which way they need to go. The compactor is to the side. You can only utilize one side of it. So you're very limited as far as use. It's separated from the recycling compactor, so you either have to stop and walk or make two trips with your vehicle. And the place where the site attendant's building is all the way in the corner. So when somebody comes in, they have to get all the way around before they can even notice that someone's in the site. So those are some of the issues that we have encountered at this particular site. And also, all of the old compactors that we have are breakaway compactors. So whenever they go together, there's always spillage, liquid spillage on the ground, which creates an environmental issue. We've resolved that at several sites already, and so we're trying to move forward to resolve that at the site. So what we do as many things in-house as we can. So we sat down, the team sat down, we brainstormed on how we can alleviate some problems now with the minimal amount within our budget, use a minimal amount of money. So this is what we've done so far. We did the same thing. We put actual arrows on the ground to create a traffic pattern. One of the issues is all of the HHW collection site, there was no shelter. It was just sitting on the ground. It was raining on it, and that creates another whole issue when you have that particular material sitting out in the open. We had several containers there for bulky waste, and the residents had to lift it and put it in there, put it inside the container. So we put in lay-down areas, which is flat on the ground. Now when residents come in to bring a couch or something heavy, they can just put it on the ground, and we utilize our machinery to put it inside the container. We've done this successfully at the other two sites, so we're trying to now move it to some of the other sites. There's two things. One, it makes it easier on our residents when they have heavy items to dispose of. And number two, we're able to load the containers ourselves with the machines. We're able to crunch it up, get more material in the container, reduce the amount of hauls that we're making by doing this. When they implemented that, we were able to remove 2 containers from this site. So that's 2 hauls that we don't have to make because we're now putting it into 1 container. And able to make heavier loads, and the more you haul in a load, the cheaper it costs to haul it. Now, at this particular site, we had an older compactor, and I'm not going to do a jump up and down and say yay, but it went out. It finally broke, which was great in one respect, because we were able to replace that with a self-contained compactor, and that drastically reduced our environmental issue of spillage of liquid on the ground. Now, moving forward, this is what we would, so let me tell you about this. So the laydown area looks like this. We just outlined some areas on the ground. Site attendant tells them where to put it. Then we can bring the truck in, which is a boom truck, come in and load the material into the container that you see to the side there. So the resident does not have to lift this material when they bring it in. This is the area we created for the HHW. That particular shelter was the shelter that was half of the shelter that was originally at Ren's Mill. We took it, cut it in half, and we used it. We're able to use that at 2 sites, so that saved us money from having to put new shelters at the site. And we solved a problem with something that we had in-house. So and staff, we did that in-house. Staff built that whole entire area. We put the material down and built that area in-house. If you can see when I talk about the next slide, you see where the asphalt stops and the distance to the fence. There's a lot of area inside the fence that could be utilized to help with our traffic pattern, but I wanted you to see that so when I get to the slide, you'll understand what I'm talking about. And that's the self-contained compactor. We were glad to get that in place, but the problem still, you can only use one side of it. So moving forward, this is what we would like to do, which is going to require some cost. We would like to move the fence out 10 feet. Which is not a lot, and we want to be able to use all the space all the way to the fence. The reason for moving the fence out is just so that, and there will be no asphalt or anything there, it's just so that we'll have a little buffer between the fence and the containers. But we're able to fill in the area that I showed you in the previous slide from the asphalt to the fence. It's the area that we want to fill in. And so what that will do, that will allow us to give us more turning radius within the site. So we will move the compactor to the center, leave the recycling compactor where it is, and then move the building put in the new building like we have at Ren's Mill in the front. This will allow traffic to come in. They can use both sides of the container. If they have recycling, they have one stop. They can just walk over, put it in the container, and then follow the traffic pattern and go out. And we looked at this as an option that we can do without having to expand the site or change the size or shape of the site.
We have to close the site?
I feel like being that we're closed on Wednesdays, we're going to try to figure out a way, because all of the improvements that we made so far with these sites, we have not had to close. We were able to do it on Wednesday. So what we'll try to figure, what we'll do is I'll get with my team, we'll figure out how we can stage different pieces of it to accomplish the goal. So it might be, if we don't close, it might not be an imperfect world, for a couple of weeks until we can get things, and we might have some traffic changes, but hopefully we can keep the site open and still do what we need to do. Carroll Bridge, that's what the site originally looked like. No traffic pattern, compactors all the way in the corner, and it was just not a good layout. So moving forward, not moving forward, but right now the staff went in, created a turning radius inside of there, and created the same laydown area. And this has worked really well. I mean, we have really been able to increase our loads and reduce our hauls, putting this particular part in. Now, moving forward, this one, if you look at this site before I move forward, let me see if I can get this. If you look, you can see how much space we have between the fence over here and this right here. I just put this to hide the containers that we had in there so you could see where the laydown area is. But from here all the way back here is the same. It's grass area. So it's actually great because all of the trenching to put in all of the new stuff that we need to do, we can do it all in this grass area and not have to cut asphalt. So that's one advantage. And one thing I wanted to mention, the two other things that we're going to do with this is improve the lighting at all of the sites and put all the lighting in-house so we can control the type of lights that we have up there to better light up the sites. If you've been to Jones Creek or Ren's Mill, you'll see what I mean about how well lit it is now. And one thing you want to do at one of these facilities, especially where they're located, is to be able to see where you're walking. So this is what we were looking at for the future. This right here is my mistake. All of this should have been black. I had put this across there to kind of hide what was there so you could kind of see, but all of this would be one unit of being black. So we would move the gates to one side and make a distinguishing mark down the middle so that we can actually separate and have an actual entrance and exit. This will not require any additional fencing. We'll use what's there. We're just going to move it to a new location. So with this, we'll put the compactor here, recycling over here. When you come in, you can use both sides of the compactor. You can use both sides of recycling. And if growth happens and we need to put it, we can put another compactor right here on this other side and create, and you'll be able to service 4 cars at one time. So there's room for growth planned at this particular site right here if we need it. Right now, we feel, looking at the numbers, we feel pretty comfortable that one compactor will service our needs there at this time. And it gets all of this traffic away from, because sometimes this traffic is separate. You have people that have yard waste, but they don't have any trash. They can come directly over here and handle whatever disposal needs they have in this particular area, and then they're out of the way. So you have competing traffic. Everybody can get in and out, and the traffic flows a lot smoother. Now, ideally, if we wanted to build a whole new site, I would probably do it differently. But with utilizing what we have, not having to go outside our current boundaries, we felt like this was the best scenario for that. Any questions so far?
Is that county-owned property or is it leased?
It's county-owned. Both of these are county-owned properties, and that's why we're looking at the investments in these. Carsville. So what we were looking at with Carsville, this is the current layout of Carsville. This is asphalt, and then all of this is rock right here that ties back in. Due to the numbers that we currently have, doing a major renovation at this site just does not seem like a feasible option right this minute because of the amount of traffic that we have at this site. So we do have a plan. One of the plans is, I know that there's a plan to repave where the fire department is, and we were thinking at the same time if we could do an overlay and then pave the little area, that would certainly benefit what we have at this particular site right here. And please don't pay my arrows any attention. They're going the wrong way. They should be going the other way. I was having a moment when I was doing this, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, the traffic would still continue to follow this pattern right here to go out. Now, moving forward, if participation increases, we certainly have a design ready and waiting that will certainly change the design of this site and make it way more functional than it is right now. But based on the amount of traffic, the few improvements that we've made there so far seem to be working well. The last 3 sites, Camptown, Crocker, and Walters, which are sites that we do not own. But it can make a big impact on our operation. If we install one self-contained compactor at each of these sites, we do 2 things. The number one thing, if you look down in the left corner, you can see all of the open trash that's there all the time. So we have problems with animals, birds picking the trash, and all of a sudden when it rains in there, all that liquid runs out of the back. So we have an environmental issue that's been there that's creating another whole problem. But if you look to the right, if we put in a compactor and a 40-yard container, what we would do is the same we do at the other sites. We would let people put all of the large debris on the ground. We'll take our machine in and load it into the larger container, and that will eliminate several hauls. Right. If we put a compactor in, that would eliminate several hauls. So the result being, and I have a 5-page spreadsheet with all of this information on it if anybody wants to review the numbers. It will reduce our hauling for those 3 sites from 800 hauls a year to 236 hauls a year. And that is, in our world, that is significant. That is a lot of time, effort, energy saved for that. So it saves approximately 546 hauls a year. Now, we do not own this property, so our only investment would be a concrete pad as far as infrastructure costs that would, if we vacated the premises, we would leave there. These units are mobile. We can pick them up and move them anywhere, the self-contained compactors. So that's why I look at this as a win-win on an investment for these sites.
All looking good, but where's the price?
Well, tonight what I'm doing is giving you ideas to see kind of a buffet of things that we can do. This particular project right here for all 3 sites Concrete pad turnkey is about $50,000 a site, so we're talking $150,000. But when you look at the cost, when you look at how much savings and time and energy that it saves, it's well worth the cost in putting that in. The Staves Mill, the price tag is about $150. That's just, it will be less than that, we're hoping, but because we're going to do as much as we can.
$150,000, I was like, $150
No,
sold.
no, 150,000 for, we budgeted 150,000 for that site and 150,000 for the Carroll Bridge site. The Staves Mill site will be reduced some because we did that prior to purchasing the compactor, so the cost of the compactor would not be in there. So the installation, purchase of the compactor, concrete pad, all the electrical that we need to do that, it's roughly about $50,000 to put that in. But we will be removing, like I said, 11 open-top containers from that site, so you can kind of see what the impact that would have on our operation.
On these 3 small sites, what's the point of diminishing return? Like, at what point do you say, people can go to a site that's close to that if we're only seeing 4 people an hour?
That's all whose district, is that your district?
No, no, none of those 3 are. I know that much, but I'm just asking. I mean,
The problem that I see with that is that it would make some sense if you closed one site and phoned everybody to the other site, but there is a lot of distance between that, and there's a rural area. I mean, we have some places where people take their trash with a lawnmower to the site because it's their only means of transporting. Some of the rural sites.
they carry their trash on a lawnmower
Yeah, with a little trailer behind
to
it.
the,
Yes, we've had people with a wheelbarrow that walk over to take it, and that would certainly create an issue for people in that capacity. But if you're looking at it from a number standpoint, yes, it would make sense. But from a human standpoint, I think sometimes you have to have things in place to service everybody.
so you're comfortable with the number of sites and the utilization?
Based on that last thing that I said, I would. But from a business standpoint, it would make sense. But from a human standpoint and serving citizens, I think
There's a lot of distance between Walters, Camptown, and Carsville.
yes.
What they tried to set up is a 5-mile radius in all the sites, so everybody would be. And also, I believe when you gentlemen came on the board, we had some closures and site closures, and the public was not very happy with what we had done. So it was in order to give them an amenity.
It's come a long way. You guys have done a great job, come a huge way.
I just wanted to say, as far as the Carsville site, and all of these will be, I'll provide administration, they have a spreadsheet as far as the cost analysis for this, but probably the Camptown would be, once again, about 200,000 for all that pavement you see, but, you know, we really have to rebuild a road.
Carsville. Not Camptown, Carsville for the paper.
Carsville.
Carsville.
That's okay, then?
Carsville.
Thank you.
Sorry, I just
I
want to make
have to
sure.
do the fire department, and then use the mill and the overlay, and I have to rebuild a road. So you're probably looking at about $300,000 to $400,000 for all that asphalt. And also, I have to replace, I think, 8 aprons on that fire department too, because they're cracked. So,
The challenge currently with Carsville is if you're going back and you have metal waste or you have stuff from the yard and all that, it is really awkward because you're kind of closed in. There's not much room to back up or anything because it goes to the left side. And so the improvements that you're suggesting there really would help out a lot in terms of traffic flow and everything. Then you get to Camptown, the challenge is you have such a narrow,
Right.
small footprint. And, you know, hopefully the compactor will help, but there's still a question. I mean, it's
Right,
so
now,
narrow.
now, we're not going to be able to do a lot with traffic flow, but eliminating 4 containers creates more
Yes.
space for us to operate in. So I want to add another part to answering your question. I've answered, but I want to add one more piece. This, to me, is the compromise between the two things, is how can we better operate the site to make it more efficient and still be able to service our citizens. And to me, and to, not me, but to my team, through the evaluation, this was the best way to accomplish that goal.
And you're wanting to do all of this in the next budget year, like 25, 26, or do you have it spaced out?
We haven't got that far yet. I wanted to bring it to the board so like I said, it's a buffet of things we'd like to do. But if it's, but like I said, and we're right in the middle of budget time, thought this would be the best time to let you know. We can do some this year, do some next year. I never know. The numbers might turn out we might can do it all this year. I mean, Randy may find a huge pot of money somewhere that we can use. So. But anyway, that's kind of where we are with that.
Mr. Chairman, what I hear him saying is that the other end of the county needs more growth. It needs to be more open to growth to be able to have these types of things. That's what I'm interpreting.
To increase the numbers.
So you picked up on that too? Very good.
To clarify what you're saying, we'll be prepared from a waste management standpoint if it happens.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you for your
All right,
comments, Mr.
I have
McCarty.
one last slide, and this right here I wanted to share. The staff came to me and they said they would like to put participate in the parade, and it was really heartfelt because you think people want to do stuff like that for recognition, this, that, and the other, but they wanted to do it for the kids, and I thought that was awesome when they came in, and I think it was well worthwhile. And I told them, I said, you only have, I said, we can do it. There's only two things: the whole team has to participate, and it has to be awesome. And they accomplished both goals with that because I think they did a fabulous job in doing that. And I do want to add one more thing. Like I said, we did it for the kids, but we got a perk. And if you will hold it up, they did win first place. Best vehicle and show. So if y'all will join me and give them a hand. Thank y'all very much for your dedication. We really appreciate it.
It was impressive. I was there. It was really impressive.
Yeah, and we
That
had
was
one
the Smithfield or
person.
the Windsor Parade, which
We went to both. We did both.
you did, but
Yes, and you think, we have a lot of talent on our staff, not just in their job, but other things. And I learned something, some people play the drums, some people play the horns. We have a person that could play jingle bells with the air horns on the truck, so we thought that was very impressive.
All righty.
So I think that's what caused us to win. Is,
That'll work.
but anyway, that's the end of my presentation. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have as we move forward.
Renee,
thank you.
Mr. McCarty,
I think it was a great presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Joel, are you? Rudolph?
Did Windsor give an award? Or was that was Smithfield that gave it? Did Windsor give an award?
I'm not sure. We didn't win if they did.
That Windsor didn't do anything? Our
Well, I think
They
representative-
don't know because they didn't win.
They didn't
I'll take it back. We did win because the kids were very happy. So
There
we
you
did
go.
win.
Thank
Good
you.
answer, good
Thank you
answer.
very much. Waco County Government Day.
Gentlemen, the next item on your agenda is partly reminder, partly informational. As you may or may not be aware, the normal VACO Legislative Day, as they're calling it, I think, County Government Day this year, is scheduled on January 23rd. That's a little bit earlier than it has been in past years. If you remember, sometimes it's conflicted with your February work session, and we're always in a dilemma or scramble to figure out, how do we handle that day. Obviously, if you are interested in going, please let Ms. Mays know so that she can get you registered, and so that we can make any arrangements that we might need to relative to transportation or anything else that you all might need. The other is that currently there is an evening event that you all have been invited to, and so we were trying to figure out if we needed to try to coordinate with the organizers to adjust the date for that event, or if there is interest in getting to Richmond and getting back before that event kicks off. I'm trying to remember, is it 4?
Yeah, but they just, HR just told me they relocated.
Oh, they've
to-
already done it? Okay. All right.
That was literally before the 30th.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay. No more conflict then.
The retirement party is the 30th.
so just moved it to, but they were trying to make sure everybody was available and the event or the site was available, so it's been moved to the following Thursday on the 30th.
I won't be able to make the government day for VACO. I'll be out of town, but they did. It is a lot earlier this year than typically, so that kind of messed several people up, but it's all right.
we'll send out new information about the 30th, but anyway, that's been,
Yeah, and probably a reminder if you have not been registered, just to make sure you're square
Any
on
other
that.
questions for Mr. Robinson? Okay, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. You'll need a motion to move to closed session pursuant to 2.23711A of the Code of Virginia to move to closed session for the limited purpose of a discussion regarding the appointment of the county administrator pursuant to subsection 1, and a discussion concerning a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community pursuant to subsection 5. And is there a need to have a discussion regarding the last item on the bylaws, or are we going to do that at another date? And Mr. McCarty, that was your,
I mean, if we have time, I'd like to get out of the way instead of
Okay.
waiting.
all right,
And
that consultation with legal counsel employed by the board regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, namely board governance pursuant to subsection 8.
and the one I gave you a note on having the board with our new clerk to personnel, is that covered in that?
We'll add that to number 1, a discussion regarding the appointment of the county administrator and other personnel matters pursuant to subsection 1.
So moved.
Madam Clerk?
Sorry. Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
Yes.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes. We'll move to closed session. session. Mr. Attorney?
Need a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
You started?
Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
C.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
I think
Yes.
Mr. Jefferson had that. I think you got me on that motion.
Okay.
I think you got me
Mr.
on the
Chairman,
motion.
pursuant to Section 2.23712 of the
We'll
Code
fight
of
over
Virginia, a motion certifying that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements and only such public business matters as identified in the motion to move to closed session were heard, discussed, or considered during the closed session.
So moved.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Mr. McCarty?
We.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Mr. Rosie?
Yes.
Don't laugh at me, it just encourages him, Brendan.
Okay. We have any further discussion?
Does anyone know right now if they want me to register them for the conference?
No, but if you call me tomorrow, I'll have a chance to look over it and make sure what's involved in
For
that.
23rd?
Yes.
23rd.
Okay.
The timeframes and location.
I'll send a follow-up email.
Thank you.
And just to emphasize, we're going to request that the Smithfield intergovernmental meetings are with the 2 representatives for the committee.
Right, I've got a note. Yeah, I'll talk.
And then, are we going to do the same with Windsor? I mean, I thought last year we talked about the Windsor reps or the Southern.
That'd be you guys, wouldn't
It
it?
would be.
You guys ever do that?
Set up.
When's the last time y'all did
Been a
that?
while.
In a while.
Been a while.
Y'all like doing that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we love it. You?
I don't have a town in Carrollton that's, but I mean, I'm happy to go
I
anywhere
thought
I
your
need to
district
go.
went into the town of Smithfield. That's,
No, sir.
no?
Mm-mm.
He's the only one that gets off any of this. I was just curious, because I did read an article lately where the, it was just indicated that, well, it was indicated the Board of Supervisors doesn't really care what the Town
Oh.
Council of Windsor does anyway, so why does something matter?
Oh,
So I
that's nice.
thought, maybe the communication and the intergovernmental meetings might help with that feeling.
We also had the discussion previously about quarterly meeting with school board. Do we want to do anything about that or talk about that?
Yeah, thanks for
at
bringing
next
that
meeting?
up. I would like to meet sometime in January or early February. January, since it has 5 weeks, it might make the most sense. I was kind of targeting to ask about January 30th, since it's the extra 5th week, but now that's our party, so
January's so
maybe
full.
if we direct Mr. Keaton to get with Dr. Kramer on some dates.
Any other thoughts? Any thoughts for the year?
Oh, strategic plan. So we met October 24th, and we haven't gotten notes or any disposition from the meeting. We spent all day there and haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, I talked to Bob, after you sent me a note the other day, I talked to Bob today, and he said that he's been working on putting all of that together. He hasn't finished all the notes and information yet, but he said he will try to get it to us shortly.
So the commission was adults with disabilities. Where are we at on their progress with their, I think we had some action we need to take on that, they were going to prepare for us, Don?
I think we're waiting to hear back from them, because they were gonna make some recommended changes to their bylaws.
We've done all the change. The only one that I know that they were waiting on was to figure out a meeting time to put in their bylaws that didn't conflict with the audit committee. Because there was an overlap, and I think they were gonna move their time back just a half hour.
Yeah.
It didn't Carrie, because I think Carrie was asking me the other day to see if anyone had contacted either one of y'all.
They had not.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I think we could be more efficient with calendars and room utilization as far as resources go. So, Katie is our clerk, perhaps she can bring in some of her expertise in, room scheduling, et cetera. Feel pretty strongly if the boardroom had its own resource calendar, the audit committee wouldn't have kind of hopped over the disabilities committee as a meeting time. And so we want to try to avoid those conflicts anytime. I'm just saying that could be one example, but.
Yeah.
It allows us to look at it as a board member. I'm not sure where we're meeting. All I can do is go to the calendar and say, well, it's not in the boardroom, so it must be here or there.
Well, I mean, maybe the most frequently used, the meetings that I go to most frequently would be in your conference room, so the administrative conference room, perhaps here, and there's a conference room across the hall too. Well, our back, other conference room. There may be others, I've just not been there, but.
Because we do have a calendar for our conference room.
We do.
And there's a calendar for my conference room.
Yeah.
And there's a
Because
calendar for
they-
this room.
and there's-
So who has
that-
access to that, and does it get kept up, and?
Well, HR at my
Who's on
calendar.
first? I'll let you end your meeting, because there's a little
Okay.
bit more I can tell you about it, as to why that.
Yeah. Any other comments by?
Has nothing to do with calendars. That patch of grass for the Rite Aid in Carrollton, were you able to find anything else on that, and why, who's supposed to be cutting that?
So they were, Jamie was gonna pull the site plan and look at it, but it appears that belongs to Rite Aid. So the majority, there's a little bit that, where the VDOT right of way comes over, but, you know, GIS checked and they looked at the site and it looks like the majority of it is Rite Aid. They just stop their mowing at the edge of that trail, but their property extends past the trail, the concrete, the asphalt trail. And all the other properties along there are mowed.
Right. I don't know if y'all paid attention to that,
Oh,
but
it's
it's
all-
pretty unsightly.
Yep.
Yeah. But Jamie was gonna go back and pull the original site plan and just double check it, but, you know, it looks like majority of it is Rite Aid.
So the other conversation, and this, I know it's getting late, even though I'll talk real fast, is the BMPs there at Bartlett, which kind of serves almost as a centerpiece for that whole development there. Randy and I talked a little bit, I don't know that at the end of the day, there's really a resolution or an answer. But the concern of one point in time, if you look at other BMPs, say the one there at Ben's Grant Boulevard, I think is what it's called, you end up with saplings eventually because they're not being cut down to the edge of the water. I think you had looked into it, but.
The one there at Ben's Grant is a VDOT BMP.
So is that one the responsibility of develop, I mean, I know it's my understanding, remembering Jamie came up, it was a collaboration with VDOT because of that intersection improvement along with the developer. So who's responsible to make sure we don't have saplings around that thing?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that one, it started off as a developer BMP and then VDOT paid to expand the BMP or vice versa.
I don't.
It's one or the other, but I think it's owned by one and been expanded by the other. But I'm not sure who the owner is right now.
Is that an ordinance type thing to where you require, I don't know how you would craft it, but that it stays cut to the water edge so you don't end up with, I hate to pick on anybody, but Carrollton Post Office?
They had an issue, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, can you, Randy,
They're supposed to be.
look into that and
Yep.
find out who owns it or who's responsible for it?
They're supposed to be maintained, and I know at least I have interest in a BMP, and the county sends a letter out that they've done an inspection, and there's certain maintenance items that have or haven't been done, and often it is cut down some saplings. So there is some enforcement of these sites now. We're a fairly lean operation, so they don't get to every BMP, but they do get to every EMP over time. And I know just most folks want to keep the saplings down because it's a lot easier to mow than to pay somebody to come in and have to cut saplings and haul them away.
I know that we talked briefly the Bartlett intersection, actually my dad mentioned this the other day. You know, I talked about the fact if you're coming from, say, the Publix building towards Smithfield, when you're going up that incline, it's hard to get your sights on where you're going, particularly if there's two people, because there's two lanes that allow to go across. But what's interesting is, and I guess it's people getting familiar with the intersection, I've not been in there that many times, and twice now, we've had the right of way to turn left and somebody was blowing across that, because they can't see coming over the hill. They're doing 25 or so over the hill and almost run head on into you. And I thought, well, I just have bad luck until my father said it's happened to him 2 or 3 times. And I've heard other people say, I guess that's just people getting used to that intersection.
No, that's folks trying to beat the light.
But and they don't know that you're there and you've got the left turn. But
Yeah,
it shouldn't be green if you got the left turn.
It's not green.
Okay. Well, anyway,
I mean, I've seen it, so I'm assuming that's what happened with him, but
Most
I've
likely.
seen that, I've witnessed that myself.
but just it's ironic, just between my dad and I, we've had several times, it's bound to be happening to a lot of other people.
They are refreshing the lines. I think I sent you an email about that. Jamie got in touch with them, and they are refreshing those lines where they were kind of, yeah.
So,
Ms. Little?
Good to go.
Okay. Just really appreciate the nomination and look forward to another new year with you guys serving our county. And I may be sitting in the chair, but we all are equal votes as far as I'm concerned, and it's really, it was refreshing working together last year, and I pray it'll be just as positive this coming year. Thankful for the staff and everything, everyone else involved in the process, and just thank you all. So with that, we will.